Springle. I'm a public historian, cultural preservationist, museum director, and purveyor of beautiful things like this art that surrounds us, and collector as well. And I'm very honored and pleased to be here with the man of the hour, Luther Wright. Y'all can clap it up for him. And we're going to have a pretty informal conversation, discussion about his background, who he is, and also these beautiful works that surround us in his solo here at Art of Noize called Now and Then, which is an evolutionary exhibition that shows his growth and evolution as an artist. So thank you, Adrian, of course, as well. And also Art of Noize is just a wonderful space to platform wonderful artists like Luther Wright. And I've just been very honored to be involved in a few endeavors here. So thank you, Adrian, for the work that you do. Luther, Now and Then, I wanted to start back with, like, who is Luther Wright? And I wanted to ask you, like, what are your earliest image or earliest memory of creating? When did you start creating art?
My earliest creation was probably just in high school. Well, really as a kid, I did art growing up. One of my cousins was an artist, and I just was fascinated by what he would do. And it really started off with like comic books and doing like that type of thing. I think a lot of us started in like drawing comic books and mimicking the artists that we like illustration wise. And then it just kind of just took off into painting. I think my first couple paintings, it was just like really by mistake. Just kind of going to the art store with my mom one day and just picking up some stuff and like, hey, let me try some stuff out, you know. And it just became a journey from that point on. It didn't start off as doing art on canvas. It really, my first things were like clothing. So it was fashion, and I was doing a lot of like painted clothing and painting shoes at the time. And there was a lot of time where like DC, we were kind of known for like the glitter on the shirts and all of that type of stuff. But in other cities, it was like, oh, you guys are weird, you know. And then I remember it slowly caught on everywhere else, and it was just like now all these companies were painting on shirts and stuff, and it blew up everywhere. And it was just like, yeah, we was doing this in high school and like for years, and nobody like cared, you know. So you know, it was just one of those things that just keep on pushing, and you never know what something can happen of it. So that was like the first lesson in that.
That's great. Did y'all talk that the DC's Trendsetter in fashion as well? No, that's awesome. So it sounds like you were doing a variety of things, like you said, clothing. Your cousin was an inspiration. You talk about even being in art stores, so it sounds like your mother, maybe other people, encouraged your art as well. So, you know, you see a lot of people dabbling in art, but they don't always become artists. So another question is, when did you define yourself or decide that you were an artist and affirm that and decided that you were an artist?
I would say when I went back to college for my business degree, actually, and I took some art electives, and it was weird because I was going back to college after kind of like going to college for sports. I played soccer earlier on, and I broke my leg, so that was kind of the reason I dropped out of college. And during that time, I had just took an art class, and me and the art instructor did not get along at all.
Okay.
You know, and I think it was because I came in like I was like this. Like in my mind, I was an artist already, you know, and I'm just like I'm this young guy that thinks he knows everything, and like, you know, so, and it was her first year teaching, and we didn't get along. I ended up failing, you know, I mean, not failing, but dropping her class and everything, and then I went back to school years later for business, and I just took art as an elective, and I'm sitting in this classroom, like, yeah, this is the same classroom I had that I, you know. And I got my same portfolio, and I'm just laughing. I'm just like, yo, if this lady walks in this classroom, and lo and behold, she walks in, and my head immediately drops. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I just start laughing. She sees me, she's like, what's going on? I was like, you don't probably remember me, but I remember you, you know. But that was a lesson, because at that point, I said, you know what, I don't know anything. I'm an open book. I'm gonna have a totally different mindset, and you know, and I learned so much from her during that process. And doing like the student art shows. I was winning like first place in like drawing and painting, and every year I would just come take her class, and it just sprouted to this relationship that I had with her. And she always tells the story, like, I remember you, like you were the cool kid back then, and and I could see the young artists now that reminded me of myself. She was like, they look up to you because you come here and you go to work. And, so it's just this whole thing. And I don't even know when I go back, she would like introduce me to her class and would tell the whole story about it. And, it's just been one of those things where that part, I think, defined it for me. Like, hey, I could actually do this. And then having a background in business, I was able to then convert it into art business.
No, that's amazing. Wow. Well, judging by the story, it sounds like you were very confident in your art. But it sounds like you were very confident in your abilities, with the encounter with the professor and then later decided.
Well, I feel like it was always just a continuous learning process. Right. But I felt like I always knew that being a creator was in me, and it just didn't feel right not to create.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I guess, building the confidence to at some point say like, this is it, and
right.
This is all I want to pursue.
Okay.
And that was the scary part, like leaving the full-time job, leaving all the comforts of the 9 to 5 and that type of world to pursue this career.
That's big. When did that happen for you?
I would say 2017. Okay. I started my company in 2014, which is the collective artist. So not only when I first came out, I was doing a lot of live painting at like busboys and poets, weddings,
mm-hmm.
A lot of things that at that time nobody was painting live. It was probably like one other guy, Demond Pender at the time, was like painting live all over the place. So a lot of people would think I was him. So for a long time, I used to kind of, I didn't like him in a sense, because it was like, yo, I'm not this guy, and everybody thought I was him. And then one event I filled in for him, actually, and I met him. And ever since then, we've been like brothers. I know we had the same birthday, everything, so it's just been a link from that point on. But, and now it's so many people painting live, there's so many people doing that particular thing. And I've had artists, come up to me and be like, yo, I've never even seen that happen, and I seen you at Springle. And, so it's just, you never know who you can inspire, you never know who the next generation of artists that will come behind you, or people that just look up to you in the present,
That's awesome. I think, live painting, like you said, can be very powerful and inspiring for others as well to see it live. And it brings me kind of back to your upbringing here in DC. So I want to go back to some of that identity. You mentioned how you were into fashion and doing things, pioneering things that people latched on to later. DC is very much a trendsetter. What does your identity, or how does your identity as a native Washingtonian, DC native, play into how you approach art, how you create? What are some things that influence you as far as like where you're from?
I think the biggest thing is that growing up here, I've never really seen a lot of representation or just art in the public or in our communities, in spaces like this. Mm-hmm. So just to be involved in a community that is now doing that, I think that is part of the identity. I've always wanted to inspire the next artists and just uplift the community with my work, doing images of positivity, messages of positivity, something that uplifts people. And I think the biggest thing that happened with my work was during COVID, is when I started to put a lot of positive messages all around DC, and it just took off. So in a sense, a lot of people were like, yo, that's your signature style, and a lot of people were just being introduced to my work during that time, so that's all they know. But I've done several bodies of work, as you can see in here, so I just think that's the style that the community chose, and so so I just kept giving them what they were asking for, but I think it also birth creations like this, because then you get into those bodies and you don't want people to think that's all I do. You know? So I feel like some artists do have like a style, and you know they go with that. You know, and a lot of people ask me, why do you always abandon your style? You know, and I was like, I don't really abandon, but I just keep exploring and keep growing. You know, and if I stay stagnant in one particular body of work, that will never happen.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I always look at it, you know, I guess it's to the business mindset of it, you know, like having that art mindset and then the business that normally happens to people. But I understand how like small business work and how small business is also taken over by big business, right? And it's stores like Walmart, you go there because they have variety. It's your one-stop shop. So I try to provide that same variety within my work.
That's excellent. You mentioned kind of like I was going to talk a little bit more about your public art, but who all has seen Luther's public art? It's all around, right? Yes, it's all over the place. And when you look around in this exhibit, which we'll really get into in a few minutes, you don't really see that style that's on the street. It's, you know, it's this colorful, lined, dynamic figures and things like that. So I guess my question is how does the public receive that? How have you received feedback about some of the public art and things that are on the street that inspires you to kind of keep that form on the street?
I think like I said, the public is what speaks to that.
Right.
I mean, even it's times where I could try to move on from that particular style and it will still get
They want that.
requested.
Right.
So I feel like it is the style that made my social media and stuff popular, but it's not necessarily what carries me as an artist. And I try to show that through. I've been fortunate to be successful with several bodies of work. Even my first dance series here. This is the second series, but the first series completely sold out.
Wow.
You know, so I was going through different stages where different bodies of work were actually really high. People were like, "Yo, this is moving," and I just switched to something totally different. You know, so people were like, what are you doing? You know, like you had something going. But that's when I feel like, you know, for me, I feel like every flame eventually burns out.
Yeah.
You know, so let me, you know, and if I can always go back to that if I choose.
If you choose, yeah.
You know, so, but that's the evolution of being an artist as well and the growth, you know.
Awesome. Well, I want to get into this evolution a little bit more with the exhibition Now and Then. And through this exhibition, obviously with your theme, that you're reflective as an artist and wanted to represent various eras of your art journey. And so my question is really, what do you want viewers, what do you want us to take from Now and Then?
Like I said, I just wanted people to understand, like, I guess the journey of where I was and my direction, where I'm going. I felt like with dedicating almost 3 to 4 years to the public art scene, I left the gallery scene alone for a while, right? And a lot of those people who started becoming supporters during that time, they, like I said, they knew nothing about the previous work. Some people didn't even know I could paint this way, or that I'm formally trained in oil painting, or you know, any of those things, you know, and I just had to remind myself. So I think that, like I said, it also was a contribution to what this new series is, because everything in the public art is so bright, colorful, lovely, it's a lot of colors. So that's what made me go black and gray. My portraiture this time. You know, so kind of just going back to the traditional, and then it was my first time like going back to oil painting in years.
Okay.
So I just wanted to get comfortable with just doing like gradations and value. And the lottery ticket series kind of just started off as just looking into what the lottery meant in the black community, how it started off as a game of policy, and running numbers. A lot of middle class families was using it to get through the day by day, and how it became illegal, taken over, sanctioned, and then just the different things that the lottery represents and means. It's hopes and dreams, people's lucky numbers. The background I wanted to represent like a grid system, to represent the realigning that the banks were doing in the black and brown communities. It's actual denim in the clothing. It represents the blue collar workers. Real money is in the pieces as well. And that was kind of like my play on what is it is to be rich, I guess. Like, and just, you know, because I felt like at this time I was creating that some of the wealthiest people financially was the poorest people spiritually. You know, so it was like, what does it really mean to be rich? Is it friends? Is it family? Is it having money? Is it, you know, so it's a lot of things that I was trying to incorporate into this, and then just the joy and the connection in some of these pieces as well. So that's why I was like trying to go with my work and the journey of where it came and where it is now. And a lot of people didn't see that in my public art because it was just more shapes and more of an organic flow and just colors and something more to just symbolism, I guess, to uplift you in that way. But a lot of my work isn't represented here, but I thought this was a good idea where I'm going with it as far as portraits, because I've done abstract, I've done neo-expressionism, you know, it's not so much to fit, you know, but I feel like this was a good flow to give a demonstration of like where I came from, how it transitioned to collage, and how it developed into this new body.
These are all fantastic. I'm really enamored with these lottery tickets, just the whole process. I do want to pause on the portraiture is outstanding. You mentioned that it's gray, and someone said you're using black and white paint. Can you talk a little bit about number one, your process for creating the portraits, and then I have a question about the subjects. You know, who are these people, and how do you come up with the compositions?
Okay. Well, the process on the actual portraits, I don't use gray. So it's thin layers of black over top of white, back and forth, and so I get the value that I want. So with oil, you can like make the paint thin with like linseed oil and stuff like that. So what I'll start off with the lightest lights, and then I'll tone the whole piece with white really thin, and that's kind of like my base layer. And then I'll just go back and forth over top of each other, but I never mix colors. So even doing the hair, every follicle, I guess, is a brush stroke that's lightly done over top of each other until it builds up. So it takes these pieces some time to do. Portrait-wise, especially the hair. The hair is probably what takes me the longest out of any of them. But then also doing the actual clothing with the collage of the clothing takes time to sort the pieces, sort the lottery tickets, get the colors combination right, and make them flow like they're not lottery tickets. I think that was the goal, so that people would kind of like look at it and not see it, and then have a second take, and then it brings you into the piece of the
These are amazing, absolutely amazing. So your subjects, how are these actual real subjects, or are they? They're real subjects.
I actually do photo shoots. Some of them are just images I see that I'm inspired by. Some of them are people I know, people's kids I know, other artists' kids I painted. You know, I try to paint the unseen and the overlooked in a sense. I'm not really a fan of like painting like famous people or stuff like that. And it's nothing against that, you know, it's just, that's not my thing. I like to paint like the underdogs, or paint things that we don't often see, or even with this piece here, the protector. You know, I felt like as a black father myself, we have like this whole hard stigma about being a dad, but it's never that soft side of being a father. And I guess being a girl dad, that's kind of really shown me like even that soft side that I have to portray to be a father to her. You know, you can't always come rah, you know. So it's just being that soft side of being a dad that I think is overlooked, that's never talked about, you know. So I try to focus on things like that in my pieces that can become a conversation for change as well.
Awesome. Can you speak to some of your other themes represented in the other bodies of work as well? And also, through this evolution of creating, I know you switch up your style when you're finished with it and go into something new to explore, but are there any consistent themes that permeate throughout your work? And also maybe some new things that you're working to develop?
For a long time, what can I say? I like painting women. I think women are beautiful. all different shapes and sizes. So you'll see women with hair wraps, you'll see women with their natural hair, you'll see with hats, but that was like my thing for so long. My new thing is actually painting men. I'm trying to give the brothers some love, and just showing like a version of like the modern man and what we prestigious black men look like, men of color, and like I said, just giving us a different perspective on the men that I see and that I'm surrounded by. A lot of my friends that are fathers are great fathers. They take care of their kids, So I don't see a lot of some of the, I guess, the stereotypes that's placed on us. I don't see that, so it's hard for me to, portray that in my work. I portray what I see, so I try to do that a lot. Even when it comes to the women, I see women as being regal, it's just something different that women hold. It's a magic that you all have. So, I try to capture that in my pieces, and when you see it, you feel it, With the dance series, my mom danced at Duke Ellington for years, and I grew up watching her at concerts. She had a dance studio called Box, Be Open to the Spirit, Christian-based dance studio. So I watched and painted. I started painting live at her recitals and doing the backdrops for her shows, and so I always try to infuse my art into different ways, I guess. And even with the clothing and the murals, and it's just totally different lanes, and I think to navigate those lanes has been a challenge, but you have a good community, then it makes it a lot easier.
Fantastic. I do want to point out these beautiful collages over here, these gentlemen looking very dapper, and how you capture that as well with the, and they're painted. I know you have collage, but is it all painted?
Yes.
All painted?
They're all oil painted.
Oil painting,
Yeah.
yeah.
A
But
lot of
very
people
precise.
think they're drawings.
Yeah.
I even had a gallery call me today and they thought all of that was drawings, but they're actually
Oil paintings, yeah. And but the background, it looks like wallpaper, that's all
It's all paper.
paint, yeah, it's all paper, it's
yeah.
paper,
So
okay.
it's like, with that series, I really wanted to just explore like pattern and
Mhm.
how we use pattern as a culture, and the relationship with pattern and how it relates to each other. And a lot of people will see certain patterns and just be like, yo, that just doesn't go together. So with this series, I kind of wanted to go against the grain
Right.
and show that you can like make stuff that doesn't look like traditionally it would make sense together, but it would,
I love
So
that.
it's been a challenge,
I like it though, it's like a throwback to your origin point of fashion,
Yes, it is, and that's the part, I think that the challenge is trying to, I feel like with each painting I have to dress the person, so it's almost bringing like that designer aspect back out into it. So that's what it feels like, and it makes these pieces a little bit more challenging to do than the lottery in a sense, because it's like I have to figure that out for each person. And it's times where I could make a cut and I'll put it, and I'm like, that just doesn't, I don't like that.
Right.
So then it's a waste of materials, it's a waste of, because I'm buying this versus I'm finding it, found material, so I can cut this up and throw it away, and all right, whatever, it's a lottery ticket, But with this, it's a little bit different, so, it's just a little bit more meticulous.
Awesome. Is there a particular piece within this body of work, or in particular, that represents some critical juncture for you, creatively or intellectually, like something that's like eye-opening, or you cracked a code, or something like that?
I would say it's these dancers here.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was the first, I guess, collection that made me start to explore paper and adding collage to my work. Before this series, I explored with materials that you can see like in the backgrounds, and resin and pours, there's ink in these pieces, glass, all types of different like minerals and stuff like that, little structural things. But it was the first collection that I actually really went into like collage and using paper and stuff in my work. So that's what kind of really inspired me to really start doing collage and add that as my work. So I think that was a real pivot for me.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really, you see it's mixed media, but it doesn't capture as collage right away. But now that you say it's in there, I see it. No, those are beautiful. Awesome. Well, I kind of want to go back to your multimedia. You literally do everything, from public art and murals, canvas paintings, mixed media, creating or found objects like this piece here. And I really just like how you don't box yourself in. I think that's how you kind of keep going, as well. What is your process and approach in creating in various mediums? Like, how do you compartmentalize, I guess? And what is vastly different and particularly similar in how you approach different mediums? If that makes sense.
Okay, that is the challenge. I think because once I move on to a new body of work, it is hard to go back and do older work. Because it's almost like I'm in that moment. So I don't feel it the same. It doesn't come out the same. And I've even went back and tried to do Neo series. And it just, but when I was in that mode, did 40 of them in a month, and, so it's like, you gotta really be in that place sometimes. And I think, sometimes even doing these two bodies of work at the same time, just I have to stop one and then do the other. But now I'm at a place where I just have multiple pieces going at the same time. And I think that's been the best approach for me recently, because it doesn't keep me boxed in on, or I don't get stagnant on what I'm working on. So I can kind of if I feel like, hey, I'm tired of doing this background and these lottery tickets, let me jump to doing something else. Let me work with these patterns, and it just changes my thought process up a little bit. And sometimes that's all you need, is to refresh your thought process on how you're doing it. But I think the approach has started to become more repetition as far as the way I'm painting the pieces. And because I've got a system down now to how I like to paint them, how I like the finished process, and I can tell now if the piece has a certain glow to me and that it's done, and if it's not to that point, how it still sits. So even now I have 7 new pieces on my wall, and between, I guess, doing the balance between public art and that, you have to know all right, let me have these pieces ready. So tomorrow I start a new project in Virginia. I'm doing a side with Starbucks, so I'll be out for a week. So now, so just trying to balance the two worlds. I guess that's the challenge. Right. But I've been able to manage it so far. And like I said, it becomes the community. The artists that I work with, the artists that I know, they keep me in the loop. They help me out. I even have one of my mentors in here, Jeff Huntington. I've been working with him for a while. It's artists like that you can just call, and they'll give you all the knowledge they know, and it helps you to continue with your career, and then you use that and spread it to the next artist. So what was the question again? I'm sorry. I've been drinking a little.
You're good. It was a little loaded, but I think you answered it. I was asking you how you kind of pivot between things, because you're so diverse in your various mediums, and it kind of leads me into the other part. I want to get back on the street for a minute with the public art piece, and you seem very intentional and very much engaged and interested in community projects. What does an ideal community art project look like for you, or maybe one of your favorite community art projects that you've been involved in?
I like the projects when we're working with the youth.
Okay, young people.
Yeah, because I feel like those are the ones where I didn't have stuff like that growing up, and for people to see folks like yourself doing those type of things, it's what motivates the next generation, So, like I said, even with Jeff over here, I work with Future History now. We did a lot of stuff with the kids, and having them actually be a part of the projects that brings the community into the project, that gives them more ownership of the piece, and they protect the work. You incorporate the community, and the community, like I said, when you do your art and you show up for the community, they show up for you, because it becomes a part of the fabric of that community. And you never know what those pieces and what your work mean to people, and what it has gotten people through. And I got a good experience with that during COVID when I would just put up stuff and people would just text me every day or send me a message like, yo, I was having a bad day and I seen your mural and it just changed my feelings and it made me smile or just let me know we still here, you know. So it was just, you know, it just, those were the things that continue to motivate me with the community. So I think incorporating the kids in it is just one of those things that it just brings me more joy than anything. I guess to see them happy and to see them painting because it takes me back to when I was a kid. So I guess that's what that feeling I get, you know. So I think that's the most important part. Even with this, I have a project coming up tomorrow in Virginia where we're working on a Starbucks, and we even incorporated like a coloring page for like the community to be incorporated in that, you know. So we try to find ways to incorporate the community and make them a part of like the arts in every way possible. Because I think when you show them the importance of it by getting them engaged and they understand it and they appreciate it a little bit more, you know. So
that's awesome. And thank you also for making mention of like the artist community and support and camaraderie. I think that's very important as well. And something that's not talked about a lot too. As far as your inspiration, so that's fantastic about public art. I want to go back to the gallery and just your multiple series. What really inspires you to create a series, or even this one? Like, how did this start? What made you decide to collect lottery tickets and turn them into portraits?
Well, it actually started with an invite. I was invited to be in an exhibit in Milwaukee called "This Is America." And the first piece I had did with the lottery tickets was called "American Dreaming." So I just felt like that was fitting for that exhibit. So I actually thought I missed the exhibit. And I called the lady, she's like, yeah, you still got time. So I was like, all right, this is the perfect time, you know. And I was just literally sitting in the gas station one day, like going to get gas, and I just seen the tickets in the trash can. And I'm just like, that kind of looks like African garments, you know, like just looking at all the colors, and they were shiny, and the golds, and the purples, and that's what really caught me. It was the scratch offs at first. And then I think I just grabbed a handful of them, just random, you know, and I just took them home. And the first one I did, it was just kind of wonky, but I liked how it came out, you know, and so it really made me dive into it more. And then I started it. I think the earlier pieces, I was starting to get like little messages on some of the lottery tickets. It would be like winning numbers or mom's lucky numbers or, you know, something like that. So it was cool to get like fine tickets with little messages on it and stuff like that. So I thought that I like to add those to the pieces, like to say winning, so I thought, oh, somebody won this, you know, like, so it just started making me like even more intrigued to find tickets, you know.
That's awesome.
It just, I guess, birthed the whole series. Some stuff isn't always like planned out, isn't like some things just happen, you know. And I think that's some of the best art is when it just happens, you know. One of my mentors told me like when too many chefs are in the pot, that's when art shuffles, you know. So you have to just let it happen sometimes.
Let it flow organically.
And that's what, even with the new series, I think I was just, like I said, exploring patterns. Just sometimes it's just you're subject to your environment, right? So that's the materials I had in my studio, and so I just used what was available, and then that's what came out.
Great. Kind of connected to that, I had a question about, is there a particular technique you have mastered that you're particularly proud of?
I would say my hair is what I'm most proud of with my new pieces, because it takes me the longest to do the hair, and I go through a lot of paintbrushes, because I burn them up a lot, you know, because there's a lot of little marks. They're literally just little marks, and layered over top of each other, so I think that technique is what I feel like I've tried to master the most, and like really give it that depth in the hair. And then I like I'm not gonna say it's my particular technique, but it's the fact that I don't mix colors. I just use black and over top of white, over top of black. So just a back and forth process to, it's like a build-up strategy, I guess. Which makes it a little challenging sometimes, because if you build up one area too much, and then it's no coming back from that, so it's almost kind of like doing black and gray tattoos. I'm a tattoo artist as well, so I think that plays into this particular style of work as well.
Very interesting. How do you see your work evolving in the future? So we see now what you're creating, your past. What are you looking forward to, or how do you see it moving forward?
Well, I've been working actually smaller lately, because I feel like I've been doing such large scale stuff. But I actually want to start to do larger scale paintings, and I want to move into doing more structural installations with my public art.
Okay. What does that mean when you say structural installations?
Well, like I have the heart, I have a bear, so actually installing an actual bear, with the heart and my pattern and stuff like that. So I've been in the works with Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council about possibly doing one of those at National Harbor. I just did a horse for them for Preakness. So I painted a horse. So kind of on the same scale, but this will be designed just with my art, prefabricated. So that's what I'm kind of trying to work on, like some more structural and installations and stuff like that.
Awesome. So I found this quote from you off the internet when I was doing a little research. Yes, you got a quote. You say, art is captured energy. Energy is never lost, only transferred. Therefore, art is an interface for energy. And so to me, that spoke to a broader sense, saying that your art is in its intended energy, and your art will last forever. And so my big question is, how do you want to be remembered as an artist?
That was pretty deep. I guess I just want people to remember and know that I was an explorer of my craft. That I didn't settle for one thing, even if it was what made me popular. I never settled for just one thing. I always continued to push the boundaries of my work and uplift the culture through my work in that process.
That's great. So as we near the end and before we open to our lovely audience here, are there any new projects that you are working on or anything else you'd like to share before we open up?
Yeah, like I said, I'm starting a mural tomorrow. See my brother Al Kush is in here. That's sponsoring the whole project out of Virginia. So thanks for coming out, brother. Appreciate you. And that's on the side of a Starbucks building there. And that project is really dope. It has a lot of moving parts. Like I said, we're doing a coloring contest. So it's actually a black and white image of the actual mural that we're doing that the kids in the community can color and actually win prizes at Starbucks when we do the ribbon cutting at the mural. And we're also hosting a community art painting of that same mural that will be at the library in that Moonshot Studios at Kennedy Center. So people can go up there and paint and participate in this, and then we'll actually have the mural, the painting, and we'll select the winners of the contest on the ribbon cutting.
Oh, that's great.
Once we reveal the mural.
Now, where in Virginia?
This is at Clarendon Boulevard.
Okay.
At Starbucks.
Fantastic. So that's right in the DMV, so we can.
Yeah, you
Go
can
check that out.
we're in the
Yeah.
DMV,
Awesome.
and then I'll also be painting a logo design. Well, there's this company called Shelter Systems. They hired me to do a rendition of their logo, should I say. So I'll be putting my design inside their logo for their 50th anniversary, and that'll be live at their facility for, it's like a big thing they're doing in their whole live where, so that'll be cool too. That's like the next two big projects, and then I'll be exhibiting in like Brazil and some other stuff coming up. So trying to, like I said, trying to balance the public side with the gallery side has been a challenge, but it's been fun.
You seem to be doing great, and thank you very much for your generosity and sharing, and we'll give him a hand. And at this time, time, we'll take questions from the audience. Anybody have anything you'd like to ask? Yes,
Well,
sir.
yeah, well, first of all, I really admire your work. I learned a lot about the levels of interpretation that you have in your work, which I didn't know. Very enlightening. I was wondering if there's any art movement or artists that influenced you.
I feel like earlier on, a lot of us only were exposed to a certain group of artists. So, you know, it was your Van Goghs and Picassos and stuff like that. The older I got and started to explore it myself, I started to be inspired by a lot of just, I wouldn't even say the artists that are just known, but more so my peers. Really, the artists that I'm around every day, the artists that I work with, the artists that help me on projects. I learn from everybody, you know, and those are the people that really inspire me. I can't be inspired too much by people and stuff that I don't have a connection with. So, like I said, it is the artists that I see every day. My boy Jeff Huntington right here, he's one of the dudes that inspires me in the public art game to grow and to get better every day. I see his work and I'm blown away, you know, so the DMV artists, I would have to go with that, man, because we got some great artists here and y'all keep me on my heels. You know, so like I said, and it's like I said, because of the community we have here, it's never like a crabs in a barrel. It's almost like when you see the next artist doing their thing, and it's like, I gotta get on my stuff, I gotta move, you know. So it's just like that camaraderie of just you want to see the next person win, and then when they open up them doors, they open up doors for you. You know, so you want to be that person that continues to help open up doors for the next one.
I have a comment. I have friends that come in town and they check out the city and they send me pictures of where they are. And they're sending me pictures of being in front of your work. And I think that's amazing. They don't know that I know you.
Right.
But I love it when that happens. That's happened on 2 occasions. So I just want to say congratulations.
Well, thank you, brother. Any other questions?
I'm just really curious about this piece that's painted on a steel and like how that came about, how we found that object, or if it was like a deliberate choice to paint on steel or if it just like found.
Yeah, I actually like seeing these older pieces too because I think for the older work, it takes me back to a different time era too, of even where I was in my artistic practice. So around that time, I actually had a art studio in Greenbelt, Maryland, which was a living studio. It was in an apartment. The whole apartment was an art studio. It was like art everywhere. The doors were painted, refrigerator, everything you can have painted everything. And at that time, I would go around to the dumpsters and look for materials to paint on. Because I was just getting started, didn't have a lot of money, you know, so I would just go around and find different things. And that metal crate, I actually found 2 of those, and I thought those were really dope. The other one actually has a picture of Bob Marley painted on it in his Volkswagen. It's at the smoke shop in Anacostia. But a lot of these earlier pieces, I was just finding materials. Even the one on wood, that's the bottom of a dresser drawer. And, we had to do evictions, so I was breaking down dressers and stuff like that. So found a flat piece of wood and, you know, turned it into some art, you know. So the same one person's trash is another person's treasure.
That's right.
Same with the lottery tickets. It's like turning the trash. These are all people's trash, discarded tickets. And I felt like hopes and dreams that people, you know, had and threw away. And to transform that into something that can last forever is, you know, something unique for me. Yes, sir.
I have comments / questions, but I wanted to, I've been thinking about the color components to the paintings here, the collage color. And I feel like that was a little bit of your mural spirit coming into your paintings in terms of the color. That's one thing I had thought there. The other one is the second one to the right, you have the background half with this, the other, it just busts the space wide open all of a sudden. And I mean, I love it without it, you know. I love the idea of playing with space, flattening space, putting something that resembles something that is three-dimensional in space. But then now you just kind of like hold right in that,
Right.
kind of deepen the space a little bit. Is that something that you consciously thought about? How did that come about?
Yeah, that was pretty intentional. I was trying to, so with that piece, it is the exploration of the lottery tickets, kind of trying to push that to the next level and seeing how I could explore, and just the concept of like the dad, right? How like people have like that absent dad, but then some people have that absent dad that's still present, you know, or that stepdad that stepped in, you know. So it's kind of like playing on that concept, but like he's not there, but he's there, you know. And that's why he's like the same as the background. So it's not, you know, and that's kind of like how the dads look at it too. Because I was kind of like thinking about like Father's Day in the sense of how like, you know, it's not really celebrated the same. You know, so it's like we're just in the background, but we're still there. You know what I mean? Like, so and it was just like the exploration of just using the materials differently as well. You know, and exploring the lottery tickets. And I even wanted to play with doing some abstracts with the lottery tickets in the future, with the colors and how that would look. You know? So you might see that pop up.
Just a comment about one of your answers to the question of how you want to be remembered. You would like people to remember you as an explorer. I admire that. I feel that for myself too. I think of myself as an explorer. And with you looking at your work, listening to you talk, knowing of other works, your tattoos, your murals, some of your abstract series that
You got one of my tattoos, right?
that I've seen.
Hey, yes, sir.
I call it fearlessness, and I appreciate that because artists have so much fear, and I think artists can box themselves in. The fear of not gaining attention, the fear of not selling, or, you know, box themselves in. It takes a lot. It takes fearlessness to bust all those walls down and follow be true to yourself, be honest to yourself.
I appreciate that.
I have a question. Are there any materials that you haven't worked with yet that you would want to work with in the future?
Not that I can think of right off the top of my head, but I would like to get into sculpting a little bit. I did it in high school more so, but I haven't really put out any significant work in sculpting. So I would like to dive into that in the future and see how that pans out. But we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. All right.
And like I said, the industrial type stuff, like, I want to learn how to fabricate my own stuff. I don't want to just like send it off, you know. So I got some welders and stuff that are possibly, you know, teaching me some things. So like I said, it's always a learning process as an artist, and I just feel like as long as I can continue to put myself in positions to learn new things, then you'll continue to see my work evolve. You know?
And I think that's one of the things that drew me to Luther initially was his willingness to explore and evolve. I think we first met in like 2021, 2022, a few years, you know, quite a little while ago, and it was on like the mural side of his work. And the more I got a chance to know him and see your work, I said, man, this guy is fearless. He does whatever he wants to do, and I appreciate that and respect that. So, absolutely.
That's great, fearless. Any other questions, comments? Yes?
Comment, I really appreciate Luther's work. I got to be a part of seeing a lot of it grow from the bottom. Puts a lot into it, and it's very motivating in every other facet of life that I'm going through, seeing them go through that push. So I applaud you for that. You're powerful, doing way more than people can really see. Once they see this, they don't know what you put into it. But listening to you, I think they get another side.
I appreciate it.
that.
Yeah, Rob, that's my boy, man. He's seen some of these pieces from birth, because we actually hang out like every day. So he'll be seeing them from the blank canvas to now, you know. So he definitely has a glimpse that some people don't really get to see in the production of some of these, you know. So I appreciate that.
Right.
I'm gonna stand up so I can,
Yes,
so I can speak up. So I'm looking at the progression, right? I'm seeing portraits, but I see you in every, right? I see the movement in this blue portrait right here, and I see it how it compares to the movement over here in these dancing portraits. But I'm wondering, live painting, you mentioned that. I'm a teacher, I work with young people. If I wanted to get them into something like that, what would I need to do?
I would just say keep exposing them to the arts, expose them to live painters, and encourage them to do it themselves. You know, I think all of us start off as artists. Actually, art is the first language. You know, the writing on the walls was all art. You know, we just lose that the older we get. You know, but I think a lot of artists we're actually just big kids that never grew up. You know, so I think just keeping them in that mindset, keeping them creating, keeping them exploring their creativity, and understanding that it's no wrong to art. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned, which is what helped me not really care about what other people think about my work and just keep going with what I feel in my gut is, you know, there's no wrong to it. You know, you create something and then you move on to the next creation, and you leave the people to like it or not, you know, so.
I love that. My innocence, right? It's my favorite here.
Thank you.
And I'm looking into his eyes and I wonder where he's going. Like, what is he looking for? What were you looking for at that age?
I was still trying to just find myself at that age, you know. Like I said, I didn't even know that I wanted to be an artist. And I think certain things happen for a reason. Early on, I played soccer all through college, you know, and breaking my leg really probably would switch me to this art career, to be honest. Because I was actually pretty good at soccer. I played for the Olympic development team, you know, I played in college, you know, I got medals and all that type of stuff, but that wasn't what God had in my path, so. And I don't regret any of the journey, you know, and I think that's the most important part. It's not the destination, it's the journey and the stuff you learn and the people you meet along the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any others?
Can we give a round of applause for Luther Wright, please? And can we give a big shout out to Mrs. Kimberly Springle, please? Thank you. Thank you. Again, we appreciate everybody coming. Please stay as long as you like. We got plenty of more beverages and liquids for you all to consume safely. Please scan the QR codes where we got information about the show. I also have printouts as well. And thank you. All right, let's get the party started. All right.
Also have prints over
And
here.
prints available as well. Thank you.
What did you get back? What he's talking about.
How are you? Jackson?
it?
Oh, wow, okay.
I got what I went there for.
Good.
How have you been?
Thank y'all for tuning in.